Good morning. I'm going to talk a little about opals. I'm going to show the difference between Australian opals and Ethiopian opal, and I'm going to do a demonstration at the end that will prove exactly how you can, with confidence, know that your opal is Ethiopian versus Australian. If you were just given a wonderful specimen and didn't know, it's a test you can perform. The reason I'm doing this video is I went over to my friend's house yesterday, Lapidary Dave in Taos here, after doing some vending at the Rio Grande Gorge, which was really fun. I had some great conversations with the fry bread vendor and a meteor hunter who also vends, and a really nice Indian dude, old gentleman from the Pueblo who was so kind. And I sold a few things, made a few little crystal wraps. But while I was talking with Dave and Sunny Jam, they're both YouTubers, they were showing off beautiful new little stones that Dave brought back from Tucson, such as fire agates and opals. And, Dave's house is like a geologist's dream. It's a lapidary museum. It's so cool. So much to see there. Dave had brought Sunny Jam back this big, honkin', gorgeous Ethiopian opal, and don't worry, I'll reverse the camera and show you. I have a few little specimens that I'm going to share with you. Dave was showing off this beautiful Ethiopian opal. He'd given it to Sunny, and I asked, well, what's the difference between an Australian and an Ethiopian? How can you discern what it is? What's the test for that? Tell me the difference. And Sunny's rather scientific. The one is a hydrated silica, and the Ethiopian is a hydrophane opal. The Ethiopian forms in a rhyolite bed. The Australian primarily forms in sandstone. It was a little bit, he's an engineering sort, very scientific. I got a little lost, but I'm going to show you very easily and simply a few different examples, and then I'm going to show you the water test, which is really cool. So let's reverse the camera and I will show you the opals. So here's everything we need. I have a little bin of water. There's a few little rough opal chips that are submerged. Those are all Australian, so they will come to no harm. They can sit in the water all day and take no ill from it. But let us begin with our hydrophane opal. Ethiopian opals are pretty new to the scene. They've really only been mined for about 30 years. The Australian opals, whether it's Mintaby, Cooper Pedy, Lightning Ridge, those have been around for some time. They have a long, strong history with the indigenous people of Australia. Tribal stories surround them. They've been mined for 170 years now. The Ethiopian opal is a different story. In order to retrieve this, the miners have to basically hike down Ethiopia's Grand Canyon. There's no machinery, you don't have bulldozers, you don't have dynamite. It's just, imagine the Grand Canyon, dudes with picks and shovels and backpacks and, buckets. They'll haul their material back. It's extremely simple, extremely basic, limited commercial supplies available. You do tend to find honkin' big pieces, but the problem is this type of opal has absolutely no water in it. It's prone to cracking. If you were to, say, submerge it in water and then take it to a lapidary machine and begin cutting, polishing, refining, there's good odds it would simply split in two. The water does not release safely. You have to leave a wetted specimen out to dry for a couple days before it's safe to work. This is like a sponge. There's absolutely zero water content, whereas most opals are hydrated silica, and they're, let's see, this feels almost plasticky to touch. It's a stone, but it's just very, very different in feel from an opal. The opal does not suck the water out of your skin. This little guy's thirsty, and he's also a bit fragile, but I'm going to get him wet and I'm going to share the beautiful colors to be found. Ethiopian opal's gorgeous. No two ways about that. You have the most famous element of opal is called color play, where it will not so much refract sparkle. It's not a sparkly stone, but it has little hidden pockets of color that when you turn the stone, the light will catch. You can see little rainbows in there. You see reds, you see purple. Now, it's not, not super bright. It's not right up near the surface, but it's there. It's beautiful. This is sort of like a jelly with magical sparkles inside. This is Ethiopian opal, dry. Now, in a minute, I'm going to dunk it in the water. Actually, let's get ahead of ourselves. You've seen the Ethiopian opal. It is big. It still has some sand stuck on it. This is a rough piece. It has not been polished, not been worked. And you see how it is sort of a clear ice cube looking. It's very clear. You do see some color. Here we have a little bin of water. I'm going to leave this submerged for a few minutes. I'll have to turn it over. And you will see what happens to him. He is going to drink in that water like no tomorrow. Now, here you have a piece of Australian opal. From a scientific perspective, it is completely different. This is hydrated silica, which means it will not suck in any water. It's stable. It is not going to change if you submerge it. This is a really nice piece. It has more closely packed color play. You see orange, you see blue, and there's a layer of what's called potch, which is non-precious opal, over top, which will have to be cut down. I borrowed this one from Sunny Gem of Sunny Gemstone's YouTube channel for my little demonstration. But we're going to place him just a little rough mulga field from Australia opal right next to our Ethiopian friend. And we'll keep an eye on them, see what happens. All right, do you see something's beginning to happen? The edges of this opal are disappearing. That's not an illusion. You're not imagining it. Let's take him out. Do you see against the black background? His white and colorful region is shrinking. It's being eroded by the water. The water's being sucked in and the color's disappearing. Let's let this go on. Back you go. Absolutely nothing will happen to our Lightning Ridge friend. Now, he's shining pretty nicely against that black background. That's cool. That's why with the Australian opals, you really want to have a dark background. Let's look at our little friend here. There's a bar of color sitting over solid gray. Not white, it's not clear. It gives that color something to flash against, something to reflect off of. Watch the Ethiopian go. And these little fellows are all examples of Australian opals. That's mostly, it's all I have. I don't have any other opals right now. I'm going to show you something interesting. This is what's called honey matrix, and it is quite beautiful. Get it wet real quick. You have wonderful orange, green, blue, gold, red, beautiful little play of color, opal's defining characteristic running over top. This is andamuka honey matrix, untreated, natural. This was actually a gift from dear Riley Gunn. I traded some music, actually. This was I'll show you, made my heart absolutely swim with joy. Tip for the redhead. He's so sweet. Riley Gunn, 53 Frogs. You want quality opals, go there on opalauctions.com. Look up 53 Frogs. Great reputation. And we have a finished, polished piece of honey matrix. Here's a rough piece. Let's get him wet. This is straight out of the dirt. Nothing's been done. He flashes some purple, some green. Little blue, very nice. And this is all precious opal. There's not any potch on this. This is just opal, kind of a nice, yummy honey color with scattered precious flashes of opal. Now, not all the honey matrix will take the treatment, but if you were to heat these stones in a sugar solution and then subject them to a vacuum process followed by a high heat treatment, the sandstone, provided it was porous enough, would suck in the solution, and then when you baked it, it would carbonize and darken, and you'd wind up with something very much like this. The opal remains unchanged, but the sandstone host darkens, and then you have a very different effect. These are essentially the same material. Humans have just figured out a process to change the appearance. Here's your natural, untreated, simply cut and polished little gorgeous honey matrix, just like this little cool friend. Here's the same thing that really took a treatment. So cool. Totally different vibe though. And then here's a full kind of rainbow. You've got reds, greens. This one is actually unsealed. It's a really nice example. It doesn't have anything on the top of the stone. No, I'm not really sure what the opal lapidaries use, but this is straight up polished stone. It's a super nice specimen. And if you were to take something like this little guy, and you knew what you were doing, and you were able to cut that layer that you see sitting over the color of this gray potch, just leave the color underneath, and enough gray on the back to be, it's not very interesting, but you have to have something for the color band to sit on, otherwise it's just a little sheet of tinfoil. If you were to cut this lovely piece, you might wind up something like this. This is a pure unbacked lightning ridge, and it has blues and greens and purples. Very nice. Dave actually brought this back from Tucson for me. Once I have a little more confidence or the right person, I'm going to turn this into an amazing specimen. This is like the highest, just pure lightning ridge you can get. There's the gray potch. Fat, banging color bar. I mean, my goodness, he brought 3 little pieces like this back for me. Super exciting. Now let us move over and check on our Ethiopian friend. Look at that, it's disappearing. You see, the white field is absolutely shrinking, and there is zipola color surrounding it. It actually shows up better against the black. There's nothing. The colored opal, it's kind of there, but this thirsty, waterless stone is sucking in the water, and it will stay colorless once it completes its process for a good, at least overnight, and the color won't really return for a full day. If you leave it submerged, I'll turn it over, eventually it'll have 0 color and it'll just be a clear piece of colorless jelly. But let it dry out. Don't you dare take a Dremel or a machine to it, otherwise it'll break. Just let it dry and it'll go back to normal. Now, we inspect our little lightning ridge friend, and of course he has plenty of water. That's what he is. He needs nothing, and he does not change. All these are not actually mine. This is Sunny Gem's little packet. I don't really know what these are doing there, but the point has been made. You see the difference. Ethiopian hydrophane opal, Australian hydrated silica. Yes. And this is a seam of opal. This little lightning ridge mocha field, he is nothing but opal. The gray is non-precious opal. The colorful is precious opal. And in other areas, you'll have what's called boulder opal. I think this is a really cool example. You have the brown sandstone. It's just a normal, you'd find a brown rock anywhere. You'd pick it up off the ground. It's what rock climbers might go and scale. It's just a brown rock. It's nothing terribly fancy. But you'll have amazing little seams flowing through the rock of precious opal. And the white is colorless opal, similar to what's on the top of the little Mulga field dude we keep looking at. And then you have colorful, flashing precious opal interspersed. So this is called a boulder opal, and the boulder, just all available little surfaces fill in with this flowing hydrated silica that then turns to opal. It's the same process that would happen to an ammonite fossil or maybe petrified wood. You have Nevada Peacock Mine opal, which is petrified wood, and it has the same effect, but instead of stone, it's, wood that's been fossilized. It's very cool. So this is a boulder opal. Many types of opal. This is andamuka, matrix opal. You've got honey matrix. You have lightning ridge pure opal. You have Queensland really high quality fairy opal. You have boulder opal. There's a lot to be seen. Let's make one more little check on our friend, and we are down to one little pill-sized bit remaining. There's still a little bit of flash. It's there, but it's changed character. There's a high transparency now, and the milky cloudiness is almost gone. It's still very beautiful. Not a thing in the world wrong with Ethiopian opal, as long as you cut it correctly. It's beautiful stuff. There's great color play. There's interesting patterns, but it's not worth the same. It's worth something just for beauty. I'm sorry, one of my hairs is on there, or it might not be mine. Not sure. Sorry about that. It's not that it's worth less, but it's a different type of material, and you would never want to buy one being told it's something else. So if you're ever in doubt, just take your opal, drop it in some water, watch what happens. If the milkiness disappears and you're left with clear but interesting, that returns right back to what it was at the get-go, that's Ethiopian. It doesn't change at all, it's Australian. There you go. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. And here we are, about 5 minutes later. There's nothing left. All milkiness has disappeared. You have some beautiful color still, but it is simply clear jelly. This one has drunk its fill. It is completely, you see my finger right through there, completely transparent. Yep. Now, if we let him dry, he'll go completely back to normal in about a day when he dries out.